Cool. Sounds good. All right. So today we're going to go over Excel fusions and how those go through and function within Filevine. It'll be, or today, my plan is to go through, we're going to do a quick case report, basically giving a quick breakdown of the entire project. A fusion report, if you're new to it, it is basically we're taking multiple reports and we're just jamming them all together or fusing them to come up with a different report. We can do these firm wide. We can do it by project type. We can do it just by one case. And today we'll be doing a single case fusion report. So I'm going to go through and start sharing my screen. Um, and so starting from the beginning, it all starts with our reports. I'll say when you go through and you're going to start building a fusion, you want to start building out each report that you think you're going to need, including all the fields that you think you will need. Here I have all these start items. I have F in front so that I know it's for fusion, and then I have the dash FH so I know it's for free help, and then insurance. And after you go through and you create these reports, make sure it's a name that you want to keep forever, because that is how these fusions are going to go through and work. So looking at these, I have my 4 created. In order to get this into a template, I actually have to create a fusion first, and then we can add it in there. So I'll come over to its advanced and then report fusion. And we're going to create a brand new one. Don't accidentally click on one and replace everything, because then it will break an existing fusion. So we'll do free help. Quick summary is what we're going to call it. And I'm going to go through and push all of my reports over to this included report side. Starting with our static report, you want to go through and do that first, and then you can go through and put collection items in. So now that I have these all over, we can go through and save it. And then as soon as it creates completely awesome, I can move back over into my customs editor, and we're doing this in this template. And I have let's see here. Here's my fusion placeholder. So 2.2, go and add that. And let's see, fusions. So here we have 2 different ways that we can go through and do it. We have widgets. You can either do a single report fusion. These usually work pretty well if you're going to have if you just like, this needs to be a case summary, or if it's a specific document. If you need to do multiple ones, then you want to go with the multi-template. I generally prefer the multi-template ones, just so that you can actually go through. You can edit things later if you need to. It just makes it easier to work with. So I'm going to add that. And then I'm going to add my report fusion, which it's going to be called, let's see here. I might have to go through and, there it is. Free help quick summary. And then I'm going to limit data to the current project. So when I generate this within the case summary, it's only going to look at the specific project that I'm looking at. So I'll create that here. And then I can go through and I can remove this widget. I am going to go through and just obsolete it, because I'll end up removing the actual fusion widget at some point. All right, cool. So if I refresh, we can see it right here. And then we're good to go. Now, we don't want to go through and do that yet. We want to actually work on a report. So now we can do Excel fusions and we can do Word fusions. Today really just will be Excel fusions, but if you have any Word fusion questions, I'm happy to answer those as well. But I'm going to just generate my default template so I can get all of my field replacement codes, everything that I need to be able to build this out. Perfect. All right, we'll open this up. And this is what I'm seeing. I had built 4 different reports: my static, my insurance, my liens, and my meds. And they're all listed right there like that. If I were to generate it, I would get 4 pages, which with each of these different reports on each separate sheet. What I want to go through and do, though, is I want it to look a specific way. And so I've created this sheet, very simple, quick overview sheet. I want it to look like this. However, because of how, with cells, as you're doing reports, it's not easy, that you can't just go through and add a new column to something. So we have to get a little creative. Here we have our insurance, our meds, and our liens, and then we're going to have some static information up here. So starting with the static information, let me just navigate right back here. And actually, just to make this easier, let me go through and just move my sheets over so that I'm not having to switch between two of them constantly. I've already had, generally I will build a brand new page on here, a sheet, and that's what I'll work from. But since this one's already nice and good to go, let's just move them over. Awesome. Okay. So my first thing that I'm looking for is I want to be able to put in the client full name. Now, when you look at general reports after you build them, you are going to see these little begin, it would say just begin, repeat, and repeat infusions. It'll say begin, repeat, and then it's going to put your report name in there, and then it's going to have the report ID. If you're ever confused about where the which report is which, later on, if you're maintaining a fusion that's already been done, you can actually just go back to wherever your report fusion is, whatever it's called, under the report fusions, and you can look and see the numbers right there too. So you want to, these have to go through and match up. You can't just use a regular begin, repeat, and repeat like you would for a different fusion or for a regular report. Sorry, a little tongue-tied. Okay, so this first one here is I don't want a repeating range of client full name. I just want to be able to pull the one. So I'm going to take a look at what our actual report ID is. I'm just going to grab that and I'm going to copy it. And I'm just going to paste it right over here for the time being, just to make my life easier. So my first thing is client full name. I'll move that right there. And I don't want it to go around. Let's see here. Incident date, date of intake. All right, so I'll just move this one right here and just get all of my different fields onto this side. Now, lead attorney, associate attorney, and paralegal. Let's see, did I get paralegal name in here? I must not have. So I will have to leave that blank for the time being. I'm just going to put a note there too for myself so that I know that I need to go back and do it later. Okay, cool. If I were to go through and run this right now, sadly though, it wouldn't work. When we're doing these individual fields that we don't necessarily need to repeat, something that's going to come from a static section, what we go through and do is at the beginning of each of these brackets, I'm just going to paste the report number on the report that it comes from specifically, and then put 2 colons. This is going to go through and tell Filevine, okay, I'm going to take this field from this report and I'm going to place it right here one time. So I'll pop those all in quickly. Make sure I'm doing 2 on each one. Perfect. That looks a lot better. As things go through and run, these will shorten up and I'll be able to go through and see everything that I need to. Cool. I've got that part done. And I'll keep my static page just in case I need it, but otherwise I'm going to move on to insurance. Now, because the insurance section that I'm running this from, that's going to go through and that's going to be a collection section. So I want to go through and I want to build that report in there, be able to get all of my information. And I guess I should say too, each of these reports are still going to go through and apply the criteria that you used to build them with. So if I were to go through and have different criteria of limiting things down, let's say I'm in one project, I'm going to be looking at archived. I look at archived projects, but in another report, I don't have it where I have archived projects, then I'm not going to have accurate data. So just watch that. If you ever need to drill down a little bit more as you're going through and building these out, you might want to go through and check your criteria for these reports that you're using for your fusion. So I'm coming over here. I want this insurance company, the type of the insurance, and the policy limits. I want those to go down line by line. So I'm going to go through and just kind of pull that information over here. I have it sort of in order, but not really in order, sadly. So I'm just going to go through and just copy each field over so that it's looking how I need it to. Let's see here. Oh, that's full name. Let's do insurance type first. Cool. Oops. I'm pasting into merge cells, so it is not as friendly as I would like it. But we'll go through and we'll get it to work. Here, the way that we have this template set up, we have two different fields. We have one that is specifically for first party and then for first party limits, and another that's for third party limits. So what I'm doing is I have these helper cells here on the side. I'm going to use these to be able to put my numbers in there, and then I'm going to use a formula to combine them basically so that it all just appears a nice one cell. These will end up being hidden, so they won't be seen. And it's just a really convenient way to be able to do some other functions and do some other functions in Excel without actually going like too crazy with some of the formulas. Sometimes I find it's easier for me to break things out and then push them back in. And also, if we were to go through and put two of these merge fields in one cell, then it's going to go through and show the times as well, since these are not times. It's going to go through and it could make a mess, and I don't want it to be a mess. I want it to be really clean. Like I know this is actually always going to work for me. So my next one, my liability policy limits, I'm going to copy those as well and put it right there. Now, there's a bit more that we have to go through and do with this. This end repeat note, it needs to be put over here. Go through and score repeat. And then for the start note that you would go through and use for a regular report, I'm going to go through and just copy that note or cut it, I guess. And generally what you would go through and do in a regular report is, you'd have it on the same as your first, it's going to be your first field. You want that repeating. Because this is a merged field, an action and a note, a begin note is not going to go through and work on that. Filevine just rejects it every time. So I'm actually just going to paste my note in column or in cell A12. New note. All right, good to go. So to be able to go through and get my policy limits, and I use this a lot too, just to be able to kind of combine text together. We can go through and we can use the concatenate formula and basically just plug both of those in there. These will never have two of the exact, an insurance item isn't going to have the 3P limits and the 1P limits. It's going to have either or. So I'm just tagging them together. So then it's, when we go through and we draft it, whichever one's there is what's going to go through and pull in. All right, cool. So now I have my meds and my liens next. We'll do meds first, provider full name. Oh. See here, treatment started. Go through and put that there. Make sure it's set as a date too as well. All right, and then my original balance. I want that to be a currency field. Awesome. And then I want my final balance. Oops. To be here as well. There we go. I need to go through and add my end repeat note. I can't put it in the merge cell, so I'll just pop it right there. And then I need my start note over here as well. New note, paste that in. Awesome. And then for my liens, I'm going to do the same. I have agency, initial lien, and final lien here. And I do have a lot of extra columns in here. I don't have to use all of them. Generally, I'll go through and I'll build my reports on which columns I think I need. And then if it does become an issue, I'll go through and I'll update those reports. But otherwise, if it doesn't appear in our final product, that's totally okay. It's still going to go through and work. So recovery agency. Pop that right there. No. And then my, let's see here. There we go. My agreed reduction amount. Also, again, adding my note over here and repeat. And then go through and get my start note as well. Oops. Create my note. Cool. So this should go through and be working, but I want to go and just do a couple other things. Let's hide these. We don't need them to appear. And I also want this all to appear on one page. Let me go through and remove my sheets as well. I have all the fields that I need. So these are just going to go through and get away in the way. You can go through, definitely have more than one sheet. A lot of times I'll go through and I'll use XLOOKUP to try and put more than one report together, especially if I'm looking for data from a collection section that I can't get in a regular static report or vice versa. Okay, so then I want to get my totals here as well. I have these 4 currency fields. And so I'm just going to do a simple sum formula. And when you're doing sums in these custom templates, this is going to be meds initial. I want to go through and I want to grab that first cell, and then I want to grab the one under it. Oh, maybe I'll grab it. There we go. So, and what's going to happen then is as this report generates, it's going to, I mean, it'll keep this H15 there, and then it will move down for how many there are, which actually I don't want H15, I want H16. There we go. So it'll always be this H16, and then it'll just, you would go down to, H18, 19, 20, 21, depending how much this little section grows based on the meds that are added in there. I want to do the same thing with the meds due. Pull those in. Initial liens. And then my final liens. All right, double check those. Cool. So I've gone through as well, and I want to save it like this. So I know it's going to go through and it's going to print on one full page. Went through, and when I was making this, I did pick my page layout, and then I just set my print area there and then adjusted all the columns to make sure everything fit. So this should go through and work. I'm going to upload my brand new template here, which is, let's see which one it is. Free Help Fusion. Cool. We'll open it and see if it takes it. If there are any errors, Filevine will have, it'll go through and a red box will pop up. And for Excel fusions, generally it tells you exactly which cell it is if there's an error. Awesome. So then I come over here to my template, and I can do my first test. Which, and I'll say too, I generally set up my notifications for fusions for when they're complete to get a notification on it, just because sometimes they can take longer. It just depends on how advanced the fusion is and how many reports you're using. Because for these fusions, you can use up to 10 different reports. You can't do any more than that, but up to 10. And I have done a few of those where I've used a full 10. All right. So now we can take a look. and see what we have. Oh, let's see, pull in our information. All right, so these didn't pull in, but now that I think about it, I probably never filled those out. Yeah, I didn't. So I'll just go through and add that for next time. And it's going to be Derek. I'm going to go through and put Jasmine. Well, I guess I don't have that one in there. Jasmine, you don't have a contact card on our sandbox. Dang.
I'll go add one.
I can go through it. I can just use the test one on there. Someone hasn't gone through and put it in there without you knowing yet. Okay, cool. So all those are updated. Next time I run it, that'll work better. As you can see from here, things are, they look a little bit different. Then this doesn't have our symbol on it, and that's because we did use this concatenate formula. We could go through, and there's other ways to do it too. Sometimes I'll convert it over to text and then move it over so that it looks exactly the way that I want it to. But I'm going to go through and I'll keep it right here. I know what that is. And so I can see, all right, I get it on this project, I can generate it, and I can see, okay, here is this overview for this project. Someone can hand it to me so that I could go through and review, be very helpful. And then you can see as things total up here at the bottom. Now our medical provider here didn't have a due date, so I am going to go through and I'm going to check to see why. Because it should have, let's see here, final balance due. I'm assuming it is pulling out of this one right there, which means that I have an error in my report because I would want this other number instead. Or I don't want this number. Let's see here. For test facility, let's see what that pulled on. Oh, wrong one. All right, so that pulled right there. So that is an error on my part. Let's see if I have that in there. Otherwise, I'd have to go through and I'd have to add or open that report and add my new column. So let's generate a new one again. And then, or do we have any other errors besides right there? Nope, things should be going through. My meds initials added up correctly. And you can see how it did push down on each of these. So always just sum it and then one down for those. Let's see. See if I can finish this out. I'm looking for meds. Oh, I do not have that in there. Here we go. So I would go through and just re-add it. I will save that time for y'all so that you don't have to go through and watch me wait on the report builder. But this is how you would go through and you do a Fusion Excel. You could do this with all of your different collection sections. There's a lot of interesting things you could do. I find myself making a lot of reports kind of like this, where it's just an overview of the project. I will do others where it is a overview of so many different projects, pulling in like insurance carriers, all the adjusters information, all of that. And I pull those generally from different sheets and then use like XLOOKUP to be able to pull in. I will say that if you go through and use an array formula, it's not going to be as friendly. When Filevine goes through and generates it, it's going to throw that extra @ symbol in there. You can make it work by coming just to the column a lot of times and then doing a replace of just replace the @ symbol with nothing. We don't have that here. I try to avoid them, but sometimes it's inevitable that they have to go through and happen. So that is our general Excel. I will say to one more thing. As you go through and build these, and you are adding to them, when you go through and test it, I always usually keep my report fusion section up, and then I'll keep my actually like my project up so that I can go through and just keep testing back and forth. And small changes, if you find errors, small changes are usually the best way to go through and do that. So I want to find my Michael Scott. Wait for that to finish uploading, then we'll generate it again. Maybe. Does anyone have any questions?
I haven't seen any come through the Q&A yet.
Oh, thank you, Jasmine.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Let me try that one more time. If you go through and you keep uploading the same document, you'll start to see test numbers in there too. So this should go through and say the exact same title for my template since it's the same document, but it'll generally just put a 1 right after it. And that can kind of show you how many iterations you've gone through and you've done. And then when I'm officially done all together, I like to save this document as something brand new and then put it in there so that you don't have to deal with those pesky numbers overall. Let's go, now that I've updated those other fields, let's make sure that those work too. All right. That is looking better overall. Do have those fields in there. That is still an error that has to be done. And this would have to be taken care of too. But really, those are just updating each report and then putting the correct fields in there. But that is a general overview on how to do an Excel fusion. Jasmine, did you want to go through and touch on word fusions today?
If folks have a need for that, we should go through it. I'm not as well versed in Word either. I prefer Excel because of the formulas and different things that you can do, and I also like the layout. When you actually download the Excel, it doesn't really look like an Excel sheet, which I also really like. But yeah, let's do a Word. Just see, and similar to DocGens, you have some options with the fusion. On that page Derek was just in, that little caret, yeah, on the Michael Scott.
Oh,
Yeah, the little like down arrow, whatever. Next to the fusion, you do have the option to kind of like send it out directly from there. You can edit it as well from there. So if you did have something that maybe needs to be manually inputted, or how Derek mentioned the formatting, because he used a different formula in there, you can do that directly from here as opposed to having to go back into the fusion to kind of do it. I like to think of, when you're in the project making those edits, it's specific to that project. If you're in the back end in advance doing it, it'll be for your entire organization.
thank you, Jasmine. Yes, and I will say too, as you go through and work with these, I'll find myself a lot going through and just having as I'm building these out, having a test set with test data so I can make sure that all the formulas are working, and then I will copy it over to my actual template, and then I will upload it from there, just so that you can figure out all the logic in there, but then you're not just kind of shooting in the dark. You know it works in a template that has, or not a template, in a data set. So if it works in a data set, it should go through and work generally with your other fusion. So, and we can go through and touch on Word docs as well. I'll say that they are a bit of a different beast, but I think they're just helpful in general. But I know we do have some time, so yeah, we can go through and look at those. So we'll let that one generate. Oh, I see your question, Derek. Any workaround to use more than the 10 report limit in a fusion? There is not going to be a workaround for that. It's all about how reports are built just in general. So if you're looking for, I mean, if you have to go through and if you have 10 templates and you have to go through and run a report for each one, then it is, then that would work. But if you have 11 templates, you wouldn't be able to go through and do that. But you can go through and add a bunch of different columns for those Excel fusions, and then you can pick and choose how you want to go through and use it. And sometimes I find that I have to go through and use 5, 6, 7 helper sheets at the very bottom.
And luckily with like our static, you can add in quite a bit of data into there that hopefully covers or spans kind of what you need outside of those collection section reports.
Yes. And you can also build a fusion in, let's say, this template we have. This is a personal injury template. I can save this fusion button in if I want to do in a firm wide report, I could save it in an admin template and generate it from there, and you'll still go through and it would work. But taking a look at our actual docs, this is what we would see if we are working on a word fusion. Each different page is going to have a report or the reports that we built on there. And I'm going to see each has a start, each has an end, and then we have each of the different fields in there. So, excuse me, sorry, y'all. So with this, we can do a lot of different things. We can build the demands through these. That's one that's generally very helpful. It just takes a little bit of creativity to go through and get it to work. But basically, we'll go through, and if I wish I had an example for it, but I can show you how it goes through and it does work. So starting with, we'll do a new document. I want to go through and I want to do something very similar to what we're doing, what we did for the Excel, but I want it to go through and be more firm wide. So I'm going to go through and just kind of start with my static section, paste it right over here, that start field. As I go through, if I update it, as it potentially should go, it's not going right now. As you go through and you run it, because this is just a start, it will disappear. You're not going to go through and you're going to see it. Actually, this line, everything will move up one with that line. But I want to go through and pull just a couple things. I want client full name here. And the phase, project ID, and then I want the lead attorney. It's my basic information. I could build the same type of report as well with these collection section items by going through and inserting tables. Tables can be very nice, very easy to work some of these things out. So I'm going to add, see, we'll go through and we'll do 3 of them. And I can just build my, kind of like I am working in Excel as well. Insurance company. We'll do type 3P and 1P. Cool. So as I go through and paste these in here, oops, and just take my fields right there. If you can't see these, just Control A, select all, right click, and then you can go through and you can update the fields, toggle the fields to be able to see them. I'll put insurance name there. Put our type in here. And then I'm going to go through throwing the third party and the first party. Cool. Yeah, if I were to go through and run this, it would get very confused right now. because we are working with two different reports, but we only see this first start code. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to add my end code, which you could go through and do some nesting of the reports as well. That's not always super accurate for me. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So generally, I will go through and start and end a report. And then if I need fields from this first report later on, I'm going to add the start and end again. And then for our start for the insurance, I'm going to paste that immediately before this other one. And then for our end, I'll put immediately right here as well. And then I could continue building this, but I'll let you see kind of what this is going to go through and look like then. Name it test. And then let me go through and just replace that, see if we run into any errors. Filevine wants to yell at me. I will say, usually when I'm doing the Word documents, that's usually when I get yelled at. Those aren't as straightforward as the Excel ones. All right. And we can go through and generate it there. Okay, cool. All right. So we'll download this. As you can see, it pulled in each of those fields as I added them in there. And it drops all of these in this table. If I want to go through as well to make this look a little bit easier, especially if I'm building a demand or something like that, you can do in your actual template. I go through and I'm just going to go and let's see, where's my, oh, there it is. No border. Oops. But you could go through and do that. So if you're building a demand and you want just all of your providers listed there, you could do it like that. It's not very friendly when it comes down to some of the other logic that you can do in Excel. We can do if-then scenarios, going through and saying, such as, let me insert a field for if, and you can kind of build those out if you guys are familiar with that. If this specific field, let's say this field equals something specific, then you want it to return that. We can do that. This also works for gender. Sometimes if you're working on a fusion, you need to be able to do the gender items. You're going to want to go through and you're going to want to pull it in like this. And that'll usually look something like this. Merge field, merge field, client custom.gender. So you can use all of these different, how you format these different word mail merge. And you don't actually need to go through and start the mail merge either. You can just insert these fields and just go from there on it. So, but if I were to build, let's see this, his or her. Oh no, I don't want that. Equals. Look at me getting ahead of myself. Equals, let's do female, her, and his. So you can do things like that in there too. And usually, because you could do this in DocGen, you may have to go through and actually, what's the word? Might have to test these because these like to go through and break sometimes in demands when you're first making them. But once you get it, just copy and paste and you can put it wherever you want on there. If I wanted to reply or have this pull out a different field, let's say if the client is female or is not as male, I wanted to go through and I wanted to pull in, let's see if I have any type of data anywhere. I don't, but not that's going to work, but we can put in project ID. You would just paste the actual merge field code within those parentheses. But if I generated this from report, we'd be good to go. So that's a very simple explanation of the word fusions. We could definitely spend a lot of time on these. I know I have in general. And the more, if you have the fields in Filevine, it's easier to go through and do in Word. If you ever want to add potentially let's say a column to a report that you would want in Excel, you could technically do it here in Word by going through and nesting. Just like I said, sometimes that doesn't, or that's easier said than done. So, but yeah, does anyone have any questions on anything? Because otherwise, I could probably just keep blabbing into the universe about or fusions, and I don't really want to go through and do that. I want to be able to actually help out. So, no,
Derek, you're a phenomenal teacher.
thanks, Jasmine.
We'll wait a few more minutes if you all do have questions. Do want to let you all know that if you haven't worked with Vine Skills before, and that's something that you are wanting to do, we do month-to-month services. So if you're like, fusions are way over my head, even though Derek explained this flawlessly, it takes a lot of time, energy, effort, whatever that looks like. And somebody in your office is not able to do that, you can hire Vine Skills to do work like fusions, doc gens, cleaning up your templates for you, an array of different services we provide in regards to Filevine, lead docket, docs assembly, and we're kind of here to be your Filevine guru within your office. And again, month-to-month services. So if you just need a few things done, you can retain us for a month. I'll go ahead and put our website info in the chat, as well as myself and Derek's email address, just so that if you all do have any questions that come up after this, you can go ahead and reach out. But again, we'll hold for a few more minutes in case you all do have any questions. Okay, it's looking like nobody has questions. I did put our website, as well as, again, Derek's information in the chat for you all if you all are having any questions again later down the line. We also have an open free help session next week, which is Ask Me Anything. I'll also include the link to our free help. That way you all can see what other sessions are coming up.
Jasmine, you're cutting out a bit.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my computer. My apologies. I put our free help link in the chat as well. If you all would like to see any of more of our upcoming sessions, join, you can go straight to that link, see what's coming up, see what might interest you. We have Amy here who helps out with our free help sessions as well. Her and Derek are part of this amazing team that, gets this free help going, but also helps you optimize your Filevine or get you started in Filevine, really. So hopefully you all got some good nuggets from today's session. Hopefully fusions are a little less daunting with Derek's wonderful presentation. If you or anybody in your office needs either a recap or needs to see about the fusions, this recording will also be posted on our website, and we also have YouTube channels. So if you all are looking to kind of get updates or insight on some other features within Filevine, you can check us out there as well. Thank you all for joining us and hope you have a great day.